You ever boot up a fighting game and then look at the character roster and notice people share like the same name or there's like an adjective in front of it, like Bob versus Slim Bob? I want to call those guys altered characters. And I really wanted to make a list about that. Well, actually, just the top 10. And I'm going to give some simple rules before we get into the place. I'm not going to count characters that should be different people like Armor King and King. And I'm not going to touch Blaze Blue. And I'm not going to touch Dragon Ball Fighters, because there's like 14 versions of Goku that can make this whole list. And there's a lot of lore implications with Blaze Blue of like Jin being Susanoo, and that's stuff you need to know lore-wise. I'm talking about when you're on the roster, you see two people and you can make the connection yourself. You know what I mean? Like any player could make that connection. So if that makes sense, let's just start off the list with number 10. Starting off our list at number 10 is going to be Boneclaw Wolverine, showing opposite of Adamantium Claw Wolverine. Boneclaw Wolverine is able to use his DP in the air, combo off of air drill, and honestly, his moveset is based on the X-Men vs. Street Fighter, while Adamantium Claw Wolverine is more MVC1. Notably, there aren't too many differences. I think Boneclaw has a little more reach as well. But seeing him on the roster, I always choose Boneclaw personally. I just think it's a little cooler looking. And I think that's a good way to start this list and show really what I mean by altered character, because at the end of the day it is still Wolverine with most of the same moves. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Alpha Patroklos, or Patroklos, appearing opposite of regular form Patroklos. This version of Patroklos uses more of a combat style accustomed to Setsuka from Soul Calibur 3 and 4, while the original Pat uses more of a mixed bag of like Cassandra's moves, his mother. The Alpha version also just comes off a little more mature, more calm, and honestly, it's a pretty cool one. Looking at his sister, Pyra, I really like the Alpha version of Patroklos versus the Omega version of Pyra. They kind of like inverse each other a little bit. So I guess honorable mention to his sister, but yeah, number 9, Alpha Patroklos. Coming in at number 8 is going to be the whole entire team Orochi from King of Fighters 15. More specifically, the Awakened version, where they get all different movesets involving lightning in some, and this is just more of like a powered up version. I don't actually own this team, so I've had to watch some gameplay because I tried Chris and Shermie, but honestly that's probably why it's so low, and that's why I'm bundling together. But I think it would be a disservice not to mention them, especially because it's 3 whole characters in a roster that are just altered versions of another team. But from what I've seen, it seems like it's done pretty well. I don't know on that one, let me know in the comments. But yeah, number 8, Team Awakened Orochi. Coming in at number 7, this is where I get really confused with the list. This whole list is going to be a bit jumbled, and I really struggled to decide like what counts and what doesn't count as an altered character. But I'm going to just say True Ogre from Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Original Ogre, the Battle Spirit whatever from Tekken 3 that Jin kills. He evolves into this abomination. And he gets a whole different moveset. He gets like fire breath. He's got like a snake arm grab. He starts flying. Like comparatively, their movesets are just completely different. So I don't really know. But when you're looking at the character roster, you see Ogre and then you see True Ogre. So you can kind of piece that together. You know what I mean? You would know that's the same character. So for sheer difference alone, I want to put him on this list, so please don't get too upset about that. But keeping with like my struggles to identify what counts as an altered character and the same person and all that, it's going to be number 6, and I want it to be Robo Fortune from Skullgirls. Robo Fortune is a robot version of Miss Fortune. Miss Fortune uses her head as like a secondary attack. She can roll it on the ground, kind of use some setup play, rush down. Robo Fortune is very much spam projectiles in my own opinion. She can shoot her head off 3 times, use it to shoot projectiles and missiles. Very inspired by the next character on this list, which I'll get to in a minute. But does this count? Because technically it's just a robot version of another character, but they both say Fortune. You can kind of identify that Miss Fortune's the cat. This is just a robot cat. So that also is why I'm putting my next one at number 5, which would be Robo-Ky from Guilty Gear Accent Core. He's also just a robot version of another character on the list. But again, you see Kai, you see Robo-Ky. And Robo-Ky acts completely differently in Accent Core than regular Kai. Robo-Ky uses a heat gauge. Like, he can overheat. He's got to maintain like a certain level using his specials. He's got this stupid bicycle helicopter move where he spins in the air. He's just a goofier character, but he was made in honor of Kai. So technically he isn't Kai. I just really like him. I really wanted to add the robots to this list, and it's my list. I'm putting them here. Which brings me to my number 4 pick, and I'll be completely real with you. This guy was going to be a lot lower on the list until I was getting some footage, and honestly, I'm starting to really enjoy Killer Instinct, so I'm putting Shadow Jago at number 4, which is surprising as hell to me. Shadow Jago, opposite of regular Jago, uses more teleport and mix-up game, which I really, really like. He does still have a fireball. He has a DP. He's just all over the place. And his instinct, he can shoot you with the ball tether and just start giving you both meter, but then stealing the meter from you. It's kind of busted in my little time playing it. So yeah, thankfully I went back to Killer Instinct, gave it a shot for this video, and Shadow Jago genuinely made me really enjoy the game. And if you're catching on to like things I really like, you'll notice I really like rushdown characters if you've watched this channel. So I think it should come to no surprise that coming in at number 3 is going to be Holy Order Soul from Guilty Gear Accent Core. This was one of the main reasons I actually want to make the video, because Holy Order Soul just has so much drip, dude. Like sauce, whatever you want to call it, whatever cringy definition. The man is Oonga Boonga Gorilla. He's got his special bar at the bottom that you can charge up to do even more enhanced versions of special moves. And he also just looks like he's trying to go Super Saiyan when he's charging up. He is very, very cool. He's pretty close to the regular Soul, but there are some differences of like prototype moves. Gun Flame not going on the ground, it being more of like a punch. Fafnir not being a punch and being like a smack with his sword. He's just cool, and it's just enough of a difference where you really feel like they are two separate characters, but you can still identify that Soul bad guy. And for that reason, he's gonna get number 3. Coming in at number 2 is gonna be Cyber Sub-Zero. This one I really gotta explain myself, because people are probably gonna go, Buff, what about Noob Saibot? That's technically Sub-Zero turned into another person, and this is another part of the list that just confused the shit out of me. Yes, technically the first Sub-Zero dies, comes back as Noob Saibot, but you kind of got to know the lore. To really understand that, you got to play the game. So when you're looking at the character roster, you see Sub-Zero and then you see Cyber Sub-Zero. You just make that connection in your brain, and they are the same character. That man does get ambushed, he gets teleported away instead of smoke and becomes Cyber Sub-Zero. He's really cool, unlockable. He has just a few extra moves that it really was just kind of cool to me. I like that he has like an air special or X-Factor, whatever, not X-Factor, X-Ray, there we go. He has an X-Ray. It's just enough of a difference, just like Holy Order Soul, and I just like the robots, and I can't pick like Cyber Smoke or any of those because they're not on the same roster in this game. And if I could, I just think Sub-Zero is the coolest. Like if they make a Cyber Scorpion, woo, dude, that'll probably be my favorite version of all the ninjas turned robots. But yeah, I just didn't want to count Noob Saibot on this list because he just feels way too different. There's like almost 0 similarities between him and Sub-Zero. And I know lore perspective wise, technically, you guys could get mad at me in the comments on this, but you know, am I that wrong for putting him in here? So at this point, I kind of want to talk about my honorable mentions and just describe things that I actually did think about, but at the end of the day, I just decided not to put on the video. Things like Nightmare. I really wanted to put Nightmare on here because at one point he was another version of Siegfried, but with a whole bunch of lore crap, anyone can become Nightmare. So I decided against it. I definitely wanted to put Armor King on this list, but again, he's a different person, even though it just says King and Armor King, which I really debated on. I thought I could pull a fast one, but decided against it. I debated on Pikachu Libre from Pokken until my buddy told me that that's 2 different Pikachus because their gender and their tails. So I really tried staying as close as I could to this restraining rules that I gave myself. So with all that mentioned, I don't want you guys to think that I was like, oh, wow, this guy forgot Nightmare. Or what about Armor King? There were some reasons for me, and if those are considered altered characters to you, dude, whatever. It's not that crazy. I'm just trying to make a YouTube video, and I do agree with you. They are wicked sick. But with all that said, I think there's like one outside of like the violent Kens and, you know, Shin Akumas that people will just know that it's like an altered character, and it's very popular. So with that said, let's just get into number one, which is going to be Devil Jin. Devil Jin, obviously the devil version of Jin, uses like lasers and has wings. He flies all over the place, and he is consistently in the Tekken games at this point very edgelord like. But as like a younger kid, seeing Jin grow a wing, fly away, breaking out the goddamn building, whatever it was, and then actually being able to play as that guy, it's cool. As an adult, you know, he's not really my cup of tea anymore, but he is like the altered version. He still shares moves, and he gets a lot more. His gameplay changes where you don't feel like you were slighted on a character slot. At least I don't. But this list was a little harder than I thought it was going to be. If you watched this long, thank you so much. This one's been stressing me out. I got more other top 10s in the list. I'm going to try my best. If you have some, please let me know in the comments. But with that said, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Peace.